Facebook's destroying the entire fucking planet and shit. This morning I woke up to an article about how Facebook is responsible for our social dysfunction and a lot of our current fucking problems. And this stemmed largely from a speech given at a college campus by a guy named Chamath Palihapitiya, something that's in the fucking description. Anyways, this guy apparently runs the capital firm or whatever that helped raise money, so that YouTube could invest and so on and grow or something like that. I get the feeling that that's what he does. He's kind of like a venture capitalist or something like that. I could be wrong. What do I know? I'm a fucking truck driver. Anyways, this guy was an integral part of bringing Facebook up. And in the description is the whole speech he gives, which is kind of an interesting talk on, a capitalist perspective on our money situation, which I disagree a lot of the things he says. However, from somebody who wants to become rich, I imagine what he is saying is probably letting credence to that argument. However, I like the guy. I do. I don't agree with everything he says, but, just the fact that he says fuck a lot during his, speech at this college campus tells me he's, my kind of guy, so to speak. But I don't agree with a lot of the things he was saying on capitalism. I do agree, and it's very telling when somebody who helped develop Facebook, I'm not sure exactly what his role was, when someone like that pretty much made their bread and butter from Facebook comes out and says, I don't fucking use Facebook. My fucking kids aren't using Facebook. Facebook has caused all these problems. There's people that got lynched in India because of Facebook. There's people that get their lives ruined because of Facebook. We got fake news being fucking spread around on Facebook. We got all of this problems. Facebook. And then he even says that it's because Facebook is designed to take advantage of the dopamine system. As in, you get rewarded from your interactions on Facebook on several addictive levels. Level number 1, while you're scrolling, it's like a slot machine. You don't know if you're going to get some post or read some article or see something that one of your friends is doing that'll make you happy, or you don't know if you're going to come across something that's going to make you feel miserable, aka you get happy you won, you get miserable you lost and shit. And, that's one, dopamine triggering activity. Whenever you do that and you see something, you're encouraged to keep flicking until you win again. And then that triggers the reward-seeking behavior of constantly looking through your newsfeed on Facebook to trigger a dopamine reward. Addictive pathway. Another addictive pathway, the people who are posting on Facebook, they're sucking you in for consuming it, and then they're sucking you in for creating it, and in the middle they're throwing ads and shit and making money. So, the other reward system is when you're posting, the whole like thing, the whole response, and now the reactions and the interactions and the big, huge comment battles. And the more attention you get, the higher your dopamine response. So what happens when you spike dopamine? You feel good, you feel pleasure momentarily, it passes very quickly, and then you trigger a seeking behavior where you seek that same reward again and again and again. And the sad part is the more you do this, the less rewarding it is each time. Dopamine has this whole tolerance build up. And the more you abuse one single way of spiking dopamine, the less rewarding that behavior becomes. So there you go with 2 motherfucking reward pathways. Now they've integrated merchandise and sales, so you can go on there and shop and trigger that reward pathway. This platform is designed to keep you flicking, to keep you engaged, to collect all of your information and sell that. Nothing's free in this world. This platform isn't there just because of the goodness of Mark Zuckerberg's fucking balls. It is there to promote itself, to collect your data and sell it to companies so that they can do marketing research and advertising. Anybody who has a fan page on there is going to be constantly bombarded with please advertise, boost your post. We'll show it to this many more motherfuckers if you give us $5. It's all about taking money from people posting content and taking money for people reading content with the advertisements and so forth. And it's a pretty lucrative business we've seen over the years. I think it's waning a little bit because I'm hearing more and more people say, I am getting off Facebook. I'm doing this. I was even interacting with somebody recently from the YouTube page, and suddenly they disappeared, and they were interacting through Messenger via my Facebook page, ScottTheTruckDriver. And they disappeared and they wanted to not be on Facebook as much. And I commend that. I wish I could do it more. I already try and keep it to a minimum. I'm still guilty of whipping the phone out during idle times, but most of the time I am focused on a different addiction. And we want to demonize Facebook here. However, it isn't just Facebook. I personally am strongly addicted, and I learned this lesson this weekend, and I had to identify what led me into depression, what led me into the stress, what led me into the reward-seeking behavior of posting and commenting and doing all of these things on something I should have just let go because it was supposed to be my days off. I don't take a lot of time off. So I, ended up working through the entire weekend because I am addicted to being a YouTuber. Now, some could argue that this is a productive addiction because I am, making money at it. I'm not having to go work in the corporate world as much. I still do, just not as much as when I was in trucking. And that when I noticed a problem, which was the Patreon issue, that I got stressed out. The joy that I normally get, the dopamine hit that I normally get when I see a video I posted doing well, getting lots of interaction, getting a good like ratio, getting new subscribers, getting more views, and these are all rewarding dopamine triggering events. And what happens when you do that? Well, you trigger the seeking behavior, so that causes me to make more videos and to do more. And yes, this is productive, but at the same time, the minute that a video doesn't do well, you get a lot of negative comments. You get some thumbs down. Or even not even that. You just read a couple of negative comments, and that kind of can take you down and take away that dopamine hit. and cause stress, anxiety, depression. All of these things happen when you lose your dopamine fix and you don't have a lot of serotonin backing you up. That is what causes reward-seeking behavior. And I admittedly went nuts because of the fact that Patreon fucked over patrons and they were pulling out, and I was getting some negative feedback on that and some negative feedback from people who questioned my response to it and basically insulted me, saying I don't do any fucking work here. There was that whole debacle. I was really angry that day. I've gotten over it. But the fact of the matter remains that I've replaced my Facebook addiction with a YouTube addiction. And that's kind of been my point about addiction. It's addiction transfer. I do not know how to, and I'm still working on it. I've had periods of time where I take away all these dopamine behaviors, and then I'm left feeling low. Not depressed, but not fulfilled, not, jumping for joy either. It's more like a meh, fuck. What did I do this for? Why don't I just go get my dopamine and shut the fuck up? I'm triggering the dopamine, probably the same amount as your average Facebook scroller. I'm exploring ways to get out of this mess. I try not to look at my phone as much when I'm, with people or when I'm hanging out or when I'm doing something else. I see that behavior a lot, and it quite frankly does get on my nerves if I'm trying to be social with somebody and they're staring at their fucking phone the whole time, barely interacting with you in between it, or you're doing something and they whip out the phone. There's people in my life who I know, are addicted to this thing. They justify it one way or another, but they still do it all the time. And I think we need to work on that as a society. I'm guilty of it. I don't do it with my Facebook. I do it with my YouTube more often than not. But it's still the same thing. I'm going on there seeking that reward, that dopamine hit of, oh, my video's doing good. Oh, and I'm answering comments from people and questions from people. I like that I'm helping people. I like that people are losing weight, living better lives, and really thinking for themselves instead of being told how to think. And that's one of the dangers of Facebook. It is programming you, as per this guy in this speech, and if you read the article, that's pretty much the theme. Facebook isn't just triggering your dopamine, it's telling you how to think, what to be upset about, what to be angry about, what to do when you interact with your friends. It's kind of manipulating you in that way. I've broken free of that kind of manipulation. I definitely have my own views, my own way of thinking, and often it is not aligned with the mainstream bullshit that everyone is being bombarded with on a day-to-day basis. Facebook is not the only one guilty of this. Mainstream media is all over this shit. Mainstream media is triggering your dopamine every bit as much as Facebook, and they're also telling you how to think every bit as much as Facebook. It's not just Facebook or Twitter. They all have their little formulas to trigger you. Dopamine-wise, not angry-wise. That's a whole different triggering. But we need to start thinking for ourselves. We need to realize our addictions. That's the first step to being able to manage them, is knowing what is triggering your reward pathway and identifying when you are doing reward-seeking behavior. And know that at the end of that reward-seeking behavior is a little bit of pleasure, not contentment. And I have evolved to where I do not want as much of the pleasure, but I want a lot more contentment. And I'm working towards that goal, and that's the journey I'm on. That being said, I fell on my fucking ass this weekend. I was stressed out. I had a negative response from, the whole Patreon bullshit. And then I went out, I Ubered to make up the money that I was going to lose through Patreon. Then I went to the bar and spent that money drinking. There was some other things that happened in there that led to that. I don't want to get into that. That's of a personal nature. But I will say I fucked up this weekend. I fucked up. And now I've identified the fact that I've fallen off the horse. And now I'm going to get right back on that motherfucker and press on. And that's all we can do is keep falling down and getting back on. And I've been saying this all over the blog and all over the Facebook page for the past couple days. But I want to reiterate it for everyone here. When you fall off the horse, keep getting back on the horse, and you will ride that motherfucker a hell of a lot longer each time. Until you don't fall off the fucking horse anymore. If you fall off the horse and you stop, you don't get back on, you'll never get back on. It's how it works, till it's too late. Till you actually need to get somewhere, and the horse done said, fuck you, because it's tired of waiting on your ass to get back on. Or it kicked you in the face. You know, there's all kinds of ways to go with this fucked up metaphor. That's my point. I'm getting back on the horse. I'm going back to being sober again. I realize I may slip on New Year's. I was planning to anyway. I might evaluate that. I don't know. Maybe I'll try and do it in extreme moderation, bring enough money for one drink so I can't drink, and, so on and so forth. But that's what we need to think about, especially when it comes to social media. Facebook was not intentional, according to this guy, in coming up with this formula. It seems like a lot of symmetrical design and a lot of intentionality to it. So it's hard to believe that this is not intentional on Facebook's part. But overall, it could just be a self-sustaining feedback loop of this kind of addiction. And I'm sure that Mark Zuckerberg had the same dopamine hits as he watched Facebook stock climb, as he watched his baby become the most used social platform on the fucking planet. And so he would seek that reward. It's all about, we wouldn't do shit if not for the dopamine system. I'm not saying that the dopamine system doesn't have its uses. It's our motivation. It's what gets us to do shit. We do shit for rewards. I'm just saying some of the rewards and the shit we're doing is not good for us. It's not. It's not healthy for both our mental health. It's not healthy for our physical health. So we need to spike that dopamine in ways that does not cause us or those around us harm. Social media has been causing a lot of people harm. So as mainstream media, a lot of these things are causing people harm. And I could argue that consumerism and shopping and that kind of stuff has also gotten out of control to the point where it's causing people harm. That's why I've become minimalist. I realized I was being caused harm in this, that I was wasting tons of hours of my life to buy shit that I don't really need or use that often. And since I have reined that in, it has provided freedom and experiences in my life that would not have happened otherwise. And this channel wouldn't exist had I not kind of broken away from, being told what to think, being told what's healthy, being told all of these things, constantly bombarded with the media and social media on what's good for us, what we should be doing, how much money we should be making, what we should be buying, and just stepping back and saying, that's enough of that, and thinking for ourselves. That's kind of the way to battle this to a degree. Curing addiction completely, getting it so you don't need as many dopamine hits, I don't know that you can. I think we need that motivation to get up out of bed. We're seeking rewards, and there's, food can be a reward. Sugar is a reward, obviously. There's all kinds of things that pop the same system. Some things are unhealthy for us and take full advantage of that system and know it. Sugar's one of those things. But, if when we wake up to that fact and we're able to identify what is triggering our dopamine and our reward-seeking behavior, then we can take steps to stop that shit. And shit. Remember, I'm not a fucking expert. I'm just a fucking asshole. Please like and subscribe for more shit, and I'll make more shit. Also, in the description, you can go to ScottTheTruckDriver.com. If you like this video, you like what I do. Wait, it almost sounded like, some other YouTubers. If you like my shit, there's a tip jar in there. You can throw a tip in and keep this channel going, and so on and so forth. Also, you can like me on Facebook if you want to keep up with the latest articles that trigger me and the latest shit. And also, I do repost a lot of the stuff from my website to there. So these are two new avenues that this content, relatively short, 30-minute video wasn't enough to trigger you or to trigger your dopamine, then you can go get some more dopamine on my evil Facebook page, which gives you more dopamine, and you get to scroll and shit. And so I'm part of the problem. I'm not immune. But I will say, don't look at my shit while you're hanging out with people, while you're with friends, while you're doing other things. Focus on the other things and less on the dopamine that is social media, including YouTube. I'm not saying don't watch it. There's a lot of value to be gained, a lot of knowledge out there that we could benefit from. But ultimately, I think we need to cut back. And we need to experience more fulfilling interactions with people, not just arguing about Trump on fucking Facebook or whatever the latest social fucking justice warrior meme is that we have to fight about and disown our friends over. Just saying, let's stop destroying lives on social media and use, it's like a gun. It's as evil or good as the people who are using it. So it can be used for good or for bad. I would argue I'm using this for good as far as YouTube goes and currently social media, because I'm using it to promote a healthier life, a better, happier lifestyle, and things that I believe that because I'm doing them myself on my journey can help people get better and feel better about themselves, about their lives, to get out of spending a fuck ton of money at the end of their life just to feel like shit until they die. That's the goal. So I'm addicted, but I'm trying to use this addiction for good instead of divisiveness, destroying people, and all of the other bullshit that goes on Facebook and other fucking social media. That was deep. Have a nice motherfucking day. And shit.